Welcome back, DIVEBOMB IndyCar podcast, and I feel this episode officially launches our 2025 IndyCar season. We all sort of build up to these sort of 2-3 weeks before St. Petersburg, and that always starts off with one of my favourite episodes of the year. I'm sure Archie will also agree. I know I say it's about every episode, but this actually is one of my favourite episodes of the year, which is the predictions episode for 2025. We've got a whole range of categories to go over for 2025. It's not just me and Archie. We are joined by a very good friend, James Scott, for the first time in probably 4 or 5 months. It's been a long off season, but in some ways it's sped by.
Yes, this is exactly right. Like, we did the review episode, and then in the blink of an eye, we're already predicting what will happen, and then I'm sure this season will pass by just as quickly as well. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be back. I'm looking forward to some predictions that we'll look back on with disappointed faces in a few months' time.
Yeah, 6 or 7 months, and we will all look like fools, probably. But that's the fun of it.
That's the fun of it, and as I said, this is one of my favourite episodes, so I'm really looking forward to it. It's a bit different to last year. Some bits have changed, some bits will do the same. So this year we have 5 rounds. Some are new, some are slightly different. So we've got our key questions, we got our race winners prediction, we got 11 yes or no questions, we have our very important questions, and then we end off with the championship standings. I don't remember who won predictions last year. I think it was pretty even between myself and Archie. So there's now 3 of us to play for it. So this will be intriguing, and I'm very much looking forward to what you guys have got in store. I'm sure there'll be a lot of laughing and joking, especially in 6 months' time, but also today as we see some probably bizarre predictions. But we'll start off, maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed in simpler waters. If anyone's gone like a Connor Daly or a Marinas VK here, I'd be slightly intrigued. But we've gone simple with who will be the 2025 NTT IndyCar Series champion. Archie, do you want to lead us off for this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Marinas VK. I'm kidding, of course. And I think regular listeners will know me and Dan have spoken about this a lot for probably the last 5 or 6 months, to be honest. And my champion pick is Scott McLaughlin. And why is that? I mean, the main reason, I believe he probably should have won the title last year. And that's not to discredit Alex Palou, but if you give Scott McLaughlin the points that he lost at St. Pete with the whole push to pass controversy, he would have been the champion. He had such little gain from that whole thing that it was pretty much inconsequential. But even beyond that, like, he had the misfortune that Palou didn't really have, at least in the same sort of volume. After the first 2 rounds, taking away the St. Pete points, he was last in points because he had a car failure in Long Beach. Even later in the season, he was punted into the wall in Toronto by Will Power. He had his own mistakes as well. Laguna Seca, he collided with Power, which was his own doing. He crashed in Detroit. But I feel like he did enough to win the title last year, which staggeringly was only his 4th year in open wheel racing. Now 50% of his seasons with Penske, the last 2, he has been the lead Penske driver. He's been the guy that's finished, top of those 3, which is so impressive. Taking away those kind of errant races, whether his fault or not last year, he finished no lower than 8th, won 3 times, crucially broke the duck on ovals as well with those 2 wins. So it felt like the year that he really became a complete IndyCar driver. I think it's about time he goes the full mile this year.
Yeah, I basically was pretty much thinking, I'm going to go McLaughlin. The last second, I thought Palou's ceiling, his season last year, he didn't kind of wow with anything and still got the job done. There were those 2 wins, 3 if you count the Thermal Club, where he was utterly dominant. And the Thermal is going to be a points-paying race this year, which I think could really suit Alex Palou quite well. And I mean, yes, there were mistakes. He wasn't flawless either, which is something that we didn't see in the first of the back-to-back championships in 2023. He finished no lower than 8th with basically no mistakes whatsoever. Yes, there was the spin in Iowa, but other than that, it was reasonably solid without being kind of world class, and he still got the job done. So I was very set on McLaughlin, and actually I agree with you. I think he has the highest ceiling, but I just feel like Palou finds a way to get it done every single time. That's why after kind of umming and ahhing between the 2 of them, I think it will be Alex Palou, and I think McLaughlin will just fall short one more time, almost like a Will Power of the early 2010s, where he won the championship at his 3rd kind of real crack at it. I think, yeah, I'm edging towards Alex Palou, just quite simply because he won it last year, and I don't really think he was brilliant, which is just a testament to how strong and consistent he is. But yeah, I'm going to go for the other side of the coin and say Alex Palou.
Listeners will know since Nashville, I have been absolutely convinced, undeniably, unfathomably certain that the champion will be Scott McLaughlin. I've been 100% sure. You could not have a single doubt in my mind. I don't think I've ever been so confident in any of my predictions. So it'll bite me back. But I have been so confident in this prediction for 6 months. I've been waiting 6 months for this exact moment because I am so confident that McLaughlin will win the title. And we'll play this back in the end of year bloopers. Either I'll get it right or get it wrong. Put it that way. We'll say that much. But I am very confident McLaughlin's going to win. He's cracked the ovals. He was fast at the 500. He's very strong on road courses. And, you know, we all know he would have won the title that push to pass Saga and St. Petersburg. And look, there were mistakes, but I feel like he sort of learned, don't take the 50-50s like he did in Laguna Seca. And I feel he won't collide with his teammate this year, such as in Toronto. I feel like he won't make the same very basic mistakes that he did. Obviously, you know, the mechanicals you can't really do anything about, but he lost probably really minimum between a disqualification and mechanical at least 50 points right there. So, I mean, he lost 100 points quite easily, which he could have clawed back. So, you know, you obviously don't know how the course of season is going to pan out, but he's a better oval driver than Palou. He's arguably the best oval driver in the series, top 2 or top 3 almost certainly. Road courses, he's probably a top 3 road course racer as well. He's there. Super speedway, short oval, street, road. He's got a lot, and I'm convinced. I'm absolutely sold. Listeners, you've heard this first. No doubt in my mind, ever since Nashville, 100% sure McLaughlin's going to win a title. So I'm looking forward to embarrassing myself in 6 months' time when he finishes 7th as the worst Penske and no victories. But I'm sure.
You are properly putting your neck on the line here.
Oh yeah, but that makes it fun. But I have been ever Nashville last year. I said this. If you haven't listened to that episode, I said McLaughlin would be the champion, and I have to stick by it because I'm so convinced that he will win the title. So, right, we'll move on to who will win the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. James, kick us off for this one.
See, I think this was the hardest one of all of them because almost every time we turn up at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I guess for the April Open test and then for May. It almost feels like so difficult to predict. I know Will Power sowed the seeds of Team Penske being amazing. I think it was at Long Beach saying, yeah, we found something, locked out the front row for the first time since 1989. And yeah, this was difficult, but I decided on Scott Dixon. I feel like it's Dixon's time. I thought last year, especially, he was perhaps the most impressive in the race, just how crafty he was. I mean, that Chip Ganassi racing car had absolutely no right to finish anywhere near the top 4, and he got past Rossi right at the end for 3rd place. And when he was in that last stint, I was like, if there's no way that Alex Palou could have done that in the Ganassi car, and he's fallen short in 2020. Not sure if he'd have passed Sato or not, but in this aero screen era, he's probably been the best driver at the Indianapolis 500 and not won it. 2021, he ran out of fuel. 2022 he was sort of half a mile an hour over the pit speed limit when he really should have won. So yeah, I decided on Scott Dixon as the 2025 Indianapolis 500 champion just because it's been so many near misses, and I don't think it can keep going on where he only retires with just the one Indy 500 and 6 titles. There's going to be some kind of balancing act, and I feel like maybe this year the Speedway will be kind to him. So I decided on Scott Dixon, but I mean, you could have chucked at least 15 names in the hat, which it would be pretty cool to see win the 500. So yeah, I decided on Dixon, but yeah, it's one of those we shall see type things.
I mean, I've moved over going for Alexander Rossi, kind of for similar reasons as Dixon. He just seems to always be there and be in the ballpark and be quick. He was probably the best Penske driver across the majority, the best non-Penske driver across the majority of the months last year. And obviously going to an Ed Carpenter racing team that's had speed, but I didn't pick him in the end. I kind of chickened out of it. And this is something that would probably seem a safe bet, but I'm going to go for Joseph Newgarden because, I mean, I don't think anything is a safe bet at Indy. You know, nothing is ever a given. And there is a reason why nobody has ever won this race 3 times in a row. But we love seeing history being made. And, you know, I think he just has as good a shot as any. He probably will go into it as the favourite. But I don't think that will weigh on him at all. I think he's absolutely nailed the approach, and it's taken time. It took him 12 years to win this race, but he seems to have absolutely perfected the approach of kind of what it takes to win the Indy 500. And obviously it's not going to be like it was last year, where it was just plug and play 2023 to 2024, pretty similar car. Obviously this year there's going to be the added hybrid weight, so that's something to figure out. But if he can find a sweet spot, something like what he's found in the last few years, I just think he's formidable. Because okay, he's not always there throughout the race, but I think that's part of his approach, and I think he has that approach down to a T. He's just been so perfect. I think he has it down, as I said, to a T.
You ready? I've gone for Scott McLaughlin. I'm convinced. I'm still convinced on this as well. No driver has done the double, I think, since Franchitti in 2010, but I'm convinced McLaughlin has won the Indy 500 as well. I mean, he got the pole last year, and that was his sort of first time near the front. He had some sort of issue. I can't remember what the issue was. He had some minor mechanical issue.
It was his clutch, right? I think it was his clutch in pit stops.
Yeah, he had some mechanical issue which let him down. Anyway, he knows how it is to run at the front now. Penske are obviously bloody quick at the speedway. They are fast. I mean, you don't win it 2 years in a row by being slow and sweeping the front row last year. And I feel like Simon Pagenaud is like his best buddy now, and they've got like a little momentum going. Pagenaud had a very similar Indy 500 story. I mean, it took him a while to crack it, but once he cracked it, he was very good at it. And yeah, I'm sold on this one as well. I mean, last year we had the sprinkles, we had the slight evidence, we had the slight tingling that, you know, we'll sit into next year. He's going to carry on in that momentum, and he's going to win the Indy 500. He's going to do the double. Viewers, I'm not a McLaughlin fan. If you've never listened to this podcast before, I genuinely am not a McLaughlin fan. I'm just absolutely 100% convinced he's winning both the championship and the Indy 500.
100%.
100%. I'm 100% convinced myself. It's not saying I'm 100% sure, but I'm 100% convinced myself that he will. But I can't say for certain because obviously you don't know what's going to happen. But all the evidence for me leads to McLaughlin winning both. Right, unfortunately for me, the next topic is one McLaughlin can't win. So that makes this podcast episode a bit more interesting. Who will win the 2025 Rookie of the Year award? We've obviously got 3 people competing for it. Jacob Abel and Louis Foster, 2 very good friends of the podcast, and Robert Schwartzman, who's, I'm sure, is a lovely bloke, but we can't call it for another podcast just yet. So 3 of them to choose from. I'll go first this time because I haven't gone first. I've gone for Louis Foster. I think Coyne won't be stronger than RLL. You know, Foster proved he's probably a slightly better tier driver than Abel, as proved by Indy Next, and RLL do the better overall package than Coyne, so it'll be a bit of a long shot for Abel. Then it's versus Schwartzman, and Prema are to improve, and I think Schwartzman's going to have a lot to learn. He's got the ovals to learn. Yes, I know RLL don't have a good oval package, but Schwartzman will have the oval style of racing to learn. I think Prema are too unproven to really make any fair assessment. I think Schwartzman will give him a run for his money, but I think Foster probably is a safe bet on this occasion.
Yeah, I mean, I'll latch off that as well because I have also gone for Louis Foster, and I don't think there's any denying that Schwartzman has the most pedigree out of this rookie crop. Obviously, he's had a very, very successful junior career on the European F1 ladder. He's got experience of driving F1 cars, being embedded in F1 teams. But I think it will be tight. I do agree. I think it will be tight, but I just think Foster will have the edge. Obviously, he has the knowledge of the tracks from Indy Next, and there are similarities in terms of even just the tyres, for instance, is something that's been spoken about. I think ovals is decisive. Obviously, Foster has a lot of experience and a lot of success there. Not only does Schwartzman not have experience there, but Prema as a team do not either. And obviously, they lost Michael Cannon after a week or so. So, I mean, RLL do need to up their game a bit. I think on the oval side of things, I mean, obviously we've seen a lot from them on road and street courses in the last few years that suggests that they can be a front-running team. But oval-wise, they've been miles behind. And I mean, they've had more personnel shuffles, whether new people coming in or, you know, just personnel from within the team that have, I think, moved cars this year as well. So it's not all certain at RLL, but I think Foster I mean, just look how resoundingly he won the Indy Next title last year, and that is visiting most of these tracks again. And we don't know what Prema are going to be like reliability-wise either. So, yeah, I give Foster the edge on this.
Yeah, and I'll make it 3 out of 3. I've also gone with Louis Foster. And, you know, he didn't finish outside the top 2 in Indy Next since the first race of the IMS Road Course, which is kind of crazy when you think that's in May, and they took the entirety of the rest of the season. It definitely is a class act as a driver, and as much as I think that RLL have got their work cut out when it comes to ovals. There is one less oval race this year than there is last year, so maybe they'll be counting their blessings with that, of course, because Milwaukee is only hosting just the one race rather than 2 this year. But like, I just think with, as you say, actually Prema being so unproven and Foster maybe just being a higher caliber driver as Jacob Abel, alongside the fact that Abel's running in the 51, which over the last 3 or so years we've seen has been a difficult car to not just get to grips with, but also to kind of see any higher up. I feel like the ceiling is probably the highest for Louis Foster out the 3, and I also think he's such a strong driver that it gives him the best chance to be the Rookie of the Year in 2025, and I guess that's why we've gone 3 for 3 with Louis Foster.
And then we'll move on to which driver will be the surprise of the year. This one's obviously a bit more subjective than previous ones, as opposed to being a bit of a binary one. So this was all about opinion.
I've gone for Nolan Siegel. You know, obviously he came in last year with a lot of kind of unwarranted, or at least I feel unwarranted flack, just because of the way that, you know, he came into our McLaren. Teo Pourchaire was kind of shoved aside. But I thought he coped pretty well with that. He didn't seem to get overwhelmed at any point, and he approached it with a lot of maturity for a guy who was only 19 years old at the time. We didn't see huge results from him. I thought he was relatively steady. But ultimately, this move to our McLaren and to IndyCar was very sudden. There was little time to kind of absorb anything, to adapt. And I think across the off-season, he will have had more of that time to just kind of get bedded in and get used to how much his life has changed in the last kind of 10 months or so. You know, he said on Content Day, he's worked very hard during the off-season, kind of just reviewing races and learning about strategy, bulking up a bit physically. And I think he's a super talent. You know, he was younger than most in Indy Next when he came in his rookie year, and he was winning races. And, you know, he was very much kind of on a par, you felt, with the likes of Louis Foster. And I think people seem to forget that sort of talent just because he's a guy that has a bit of money behind him. But he's that kind of ideal scenario where he's a super talented young driver that also has financial backing. You know, I'm not saying he's going to go and win races this year, and I'm not saying he's going to regularly challenge O'Ward and Lundgaard, but I expect him to be a lot closer. I think we might see him on a podium once this year. And I think that would be enough to probably surprise a few people.
Surprise of the year. I feel like I'm maybe getting a slightly nostalgic view of his season, because having looked back at the actual results that come off, I don't think Christian Rasmussen did as badly as like the results kind of showed. He was so much better than that. And I feel like I remember his season very fondly. And looking back at the kind of the raw stats when preparing for this, he only finished in the top 10 once, and that was in 9th place at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. I felt like he was my favorite driver to watch the Indy 500 this year. I thought he was the most exciting, and I couldn't really believe that was his first time in an Indy car on an oval as well. He didn't do the rest of the ovals until Ed Carpenter realized that putting himself in that car was actually harming their chances of making the lead circle. And then a string of decent top 50 results basically dragged it in from Christian Rasmussen. And actually feel like this could be the year where he steps up. I feel like this sophomore year is going to be particularly strong for Rasmussen. He's got Rossi to learn from this time around as well. And if Rossi can emulate any kind of the results that Rinus VeeKay did, who finished in the top 10 7 times, which was reasonably strong for an Ed Carpenter Racing side that have struggled quite significantly everywhere except Indy since basically, I'd say Barber in 2022 was probably the last time where Ed Carpenter Racing showed any kind of fight near the front, and I think VeeKay finished second there in the end. Yeah, I just feel like Christian Rasmussen is going to be the surprise of the year, and in a positive way. So yeah, that's my surprise of the year.
Rasmussen was mine, but I changed my mind. So I've gone for Carl Kirkwood because I actually feel Kirkwood's started to go under the radar a little bit. I feel where he didn't win a race last season and only got one podium, he was a bit forgotten. Because I've like looking back, I actually think he had quite a decent season, and because he didn't win any races and like he did the year before, I feel people almost just sort of forgot about it. But he finished 7th in the standings, which I thought was pretty decent from Kirkwood. So I think he's sort of gone to period. People aren't really noticing Kirkwood being a pretty a good A-tier driver, not an S-tier driver. He's a good A-tier driver, and people just forget about him. So I think he'll go back into victory lane this year, and I think he may challenge a bit more than people expect him to. I think the issue with Kirkwood is he ran well, but we never really saw him top 2 or 3. We never saw him in and around the podium that often, but he was in and around the top 5 quite often, which is maybe why he didn't make the headlines. So I think Kirkwood will take a bit of a step up. I think he'll be quite close to Herta on a lot of occasions, and I think he'll get back to victory lane. So I think Kirkwood will surprise. I think people have quietly forgotten about him, but he's underrated. He's underrated. I'm going to say that he's underrated. I'm going to say that out loud. We'll move on to the best. We've called it best new face and new place because that sounds better than the best driver to switch teams. Best new face and new place. So just to remind you, we've got David Maluka switching from Meyer Racing to AJ Foyt Racing. We've got Christian Lundgaard going from Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing to Arrow McLaren. We've got Rinus VeeKay going from Ed Carpenter Racing to Dale Coyne Racing. Alexander Rossi going from Arrow McLaren to Ed Carpenter Racing. Stingray Robb going from AJ Foyt Racing to Juncos Hollinger Racing. Marcus Armstrong going from Chip Ganassi Racing to Meyer Shank Racing. Maybe Devlin DeFrancesco as well, but I don't think any of us will mention him. There's a lot more there than I thought there was. I thought there was only about 3 or 4, and going through that, there's loads more than I thought there was. So, as we sort of did last year, we said this is sort of more like opinion based rather than who finishes top in the standings. Obviously, you can choose person to finish top in the standings. For example, I say last year Rosenqvist was the best one, but his points finish wasn't actually that good in the end because he had quite a bad run of luck. Anyway, I'll kick off. Christian Lundgaard, I think he will surprise. I think he's shown enough at RLL, but he's just been a bit unlucky because they've been pretty awful, especially on the ovals, and that's been hampering maybe what we see out of Lundgaard. I think he's shown enough, especially on road and street, to prove himself to be a very capable driver for our McLaren. I think he will be, he could challenge O'Ward. I'm not saying every race, but I think on maybe half the road and street races, he'll be on a similar pedigree to O'Ward. I don't think he'll be quite there on the ovals, but I think he probably will be in around the top 10. So expect a good season from Lundgaard. I feel McLaren made quite big signings on Rossi and Rosenqvist, and neither of them really, I think, worked out that well. I mean, the return was pretty low. I think Rossi was 2 podiums or 3 podiums, and Rosenqvist was about the same. So for 2 big signings, I thought the return on them was quite low. Lundgaard is one who you can mould a little bit more than you can with Rossi and Rosenqvist. And I'm not saying you build a team around him because you build your team around Pato O'Ward, but I think he's a very good option, and I think he will do well. Again, I'm not saying he's going to beat O'Ward, but I think he will solidify himself in that team more so than Rossi and Rosenqvist did.
Danny's just kind of taken the words out of my mouth because I had Christian Lundgaard as well, very much like in that kind of stability role at Arrow McLaren. I feel like he'll do a very strong job there. I mean, he took an RLL car to 11th in the standing last season, which in the nicest way possible, they had absolutely no right to be that high up. So yeah, I mean, I think Christian Lundgaard is a strong shout. I'm gonna say I'm intrigued to see how Connor Daly goes at Juncos. Known for his oval exploits, and of course was absolutely brilliant for them towards the end of the season in that oval dense final period of the season. I don't know how it's going to go though up until that point. And so I'm intrigued because I hope that, maybe the stability of Connor Daly having that full season ride will do good for him. Because quite often we've seen him be kind of or the bridesmaid and never the bride, and always kind of push to one side and then kind of jump back in as the first substitute. But I'm intrigued by that. But no, I think Christian Lundgaard will be the most impressive. He's got such a mature head on young shoulders. He's incredibly quick. He's incredibly clever as well. And as you say, although he may not be challenging Pato O'Ward at the top, I think Arrow McLaren could be a place where he'll really thrive. And I think he'll make victory lane in an Arrow McLaren car, which would beat what both Rosenqvist and Rossi did. Aaron McLaren, and I think he'll be a good signing.
I feel a little bit less strongly about Lundgaard this year than you guys do. I think in the future, I think he will be a guy that you're looking at. Okay, possibly could be contending for top fives in the championship just because of how well he's done at an RLL team that has struggled. And I think this year, with obviously a rookie driver in his place, that will be really telling of where RLL actually are as a team. I think I would describe what I expect Lundgaard's year to be as solid. I think he might have maybe a bit like what Rossi has done during his time at Aaron McLaren. Aaron McLaren have not been at the level of Penske or Ganassi. I think Rossi himself will also be solid. Rinus VeeKay is my P2 for this. I just think he's going to... Dan's rolling his eyes. I think just you obviously look at the struggles that Coyne had last year. I think their best result was 13th on 3 occasions. I think VeeKay will take that 18 car back into the leader circle. Few top 10 finishes. I think that'll be a really good year for them. But David Malukas is my pick. I think he'll be the one that really catches the eye the most. Obviously, this is an AJ Foyt Racing team coming off what was an exceptional 2024. Santino Ferrucci jumping 10 spots in the standings up to 9th, which was just awesome. Like, it was an incredible turnaround. And okay, they've lost Michael Cannon, but I feel like the impact will probably still be there. They've got that experience, the knowledge that he's kind of bestowed, and obviously the Penske link remains as well. But I just think the way that Malukas took absolutely no time to get up to speed after his injury when he was at Shank last year was just so impressive. He doesn't seem to be impacted by the pressure or the weight of all of these links to Team Penske, and he's kind of just brushing them off. And, this is, at the end of the day, many people view this as a path to joining Penske and replacing Will Power. I actually fancy Malukas' chances, and I think that would be a real statement if he comes in and beats Ferrucci.
Most improved. James, you've been gone first for a while, so take us away.
Well, it's nice that I'm able to go first because I'm going to talk about Marcus Ericsson. And yeah, I think it can't surely be as bad as last year. Like, he lost, and I remember we went through this in the review. I think it was something like 90 to 100 points, kind of through some of it being his fault and a lot of it not. I mean, missing out on at least 30 in St. Pete when the engine expired straight away. Before then, the crash at the Thermal Club, it made for kind of uncomfortable returns off the start, and then it kind of never really got going. The crash at Indy was pretty fatal to his chances of any kind of success there, and I guess in the wrong place at the wrong time. And how kind of well the Andretti car did in the race is kind of a case of what if could he have finished in the top 15, in the top 10 from the very back. But again, he shouldn't have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. And there was an interview that he did with Race where he talks about he had something like the 8th best running position throughout the year, but finished in 15th. And I feel like with that, there was that period between kind of Detroit towards the middle of the season, that first race in Iowa, where he was consistently in the top 10. And then he was fighting for what was effectively the race win in Milwaukee before crashing with Joseph Newgarden, and then had another incident in Nashville when it was running well. It just felt like you kind of wanted to get to the season end and then totally reset over the winter. And so I think Marcus Ericsson will make a comeback in 2025. I don't think he'll have such a disastrous season again. I expect to see him in victory lane on a street course at some stage this season. Haven't decided which one. I'm going to put my neck on the line, say it'll be Detroit, but I don't know why. And I think it can't surely be as bad as last year, because that was pretty much a series of very unfortunate events all going on at the same time. So he's going to be my most improved driver of 2025.
But I'm going for Joseph Newgarden. I think his 2024, after what was also a difficult 2023, was pretty uncharacteristic. I do feel like he struggled a bit for consistency over the last couple of years, and I think he acknowledges that. Obviously 24 was really just derailed, it felt like, by the push to pass incident at the very start of the year. Really, obviously the noise that came from that, the perception that kind of grew from that. And I mean, he'd started the season so well. St. Pete was so dominant, even, push to pass aside, he probably still would have won that by a landslide, you kind of feel. But yeah, he ended the season a little bit better. He still won races, but it was generally pretty messy last year. It was like there were peaks, but there was almost nothing between the peaks and the many troughs that there were as well. You know, he was finishing outside the top 10 as much as he was finishing inside it. And I think finishing 8th in the championship is, I mean, he was nowhere near the championship. He was lagging best part of 100 points behind both of his teammates, which that's got to hurt him. And yeah, okay, there's a lot of mistakes for him to cut out. He also had some bad luck last year, and he's been open about the challenges that he had. But I've been really, really struck by just how positive and motivated he's come across heading into 2025. Because, you know, heading into the 2024 season, there was kind of this same sort of feeling that he's come off a bad year. But last year, it almost felt like he was having some sort of crisis. He was talking a lot about kind of cutting back on stuff outside of the track, changing his approach, rediscovering his enjoyment. Whereas this year, it's very much just been motivation, positivity, taking the positives from all the negatives of last year, and that's really struck me. It doesn't feel like he's been through the same sort of crisis that he appeared to have last year. You know, he's reflected, he's learned his lessons, and he seems really ready to attack this year.
Yeah, I look back at last year, and it's quite hard because first we have to work out who underperformed, and I don't think there's many who actually did. I think Newgarden underperformed, Ericsson underperformed. Beyond that, there's not really that many you say underperformed. I think Siegel underperformed slightly, in my opinion. But if we go most improved by default, for me, it's got to be Newgarden, because of who he is, you expect more of him, right? He's a two-time Indy 500 winner now, he's a two-time series champion, and finishing 8th, only 30-odd points ahead of a sister car and an AJ Foyt was pretty woeful. There's no way beating around it. And, there was just so many random errors, like the gear sake. He was off the track every 5 minutes. Mid-Ohio, he was off the track every 5 minutes. Detroit, he had a couple of incidents by himself. Alabama, he had a few random spins. But like all these random accidents he had completely by himself were just uncharacteristic and not like him. So he will rediscover his form. I don't think he will be, full well, I don't think he'll be champion, but I think he'll be more in the pointy end of the field, more of the area that we're used to seeing him being in. Look, I'm not going to repeat what Archie said, but we expect better of Newgarden. And last year was an off year for whatever reason it was. It was an off year. I think St. Petersburg really did derail him a little bit, but it's a fresh start, new year, new vibes, new energy, new positivity, new year, new me for Joseph Newgarden. So I think it'd be the most improved.
He's through some kind of crisis as well, because he had actually now followed his wife back on Instagram. So I guess
he has he?
Yeah,
wow.
So that means at least he must be through that section of the crisis where he unfollowed everyone to 0. He now, I think, follows 5 people, and one of them is his wife. So at least that's fortunate. He may be through that the worst bit of the crisis.
Well, who's the other 4? That's the most important question. Listeners, I will find out for you who the other 4 are. There's 6. He's up to 6 now. He follows his own shop. He follows IMS, IndyCar and Fox, IndyCar, Team Penske, and Ashley Newgarden. Is Joseph Newgarden's following. Right, one final one, bold prediction. I'm going to save mine because I really like mine. I think it's the boldest. So, anyone else take it away?
I've not started one for a while, so I'll go. I am going to say that both AJ Foyt Racing and Ed Carpenter Racing are going to win races this year.
Gosh, okay, right.
I mean, we had no winners outside of the Big 4 last year, did we? And apart from Lundgaard in 2023, we've not had winners outside the Big 4. I think it's VK and Castro and Neves won in 2021. So it's a rarity. It has been a rarity. But I'm going to say that Foyt and Carpenter are both going to get in that mix this year. Obviously, as I spoke about with the Malukas section, Foyt have been on an excellent trajectory, ever since the start of last year with that major upturn that they had and Ferrucci's major gains in the championship. How much of a loss will Michael Cannon be? I guess that's the only real stumbling block there. But obviously, they have the Penske relationship. They are semi-Penske cars, and they have an extremely quick young lineup. So, I mean, Santino Ferrucci believes they could win the championship, which I think is wildly unrealistic. But, I mean, he also thinks they can regularly fight for top 5s, and it only takes 1 or 2 good weekends to possibly be there in the ballpark to win that race. And I think Carpenter's probably slightly more rogue than saying that Foyt will win a race this year, but obviously they've had this massive investment this off season, and it's a question of kind of what improvements will that bring on track. I know they've not had major reshuffles off track, but it's it's got to help. And I mean, Ed Carpenter and the two drivers as well have been very optimistic. Ed said this is the biggest reset the team have had since they were founded in 2012. And Rossi has major belief in this as a real long-term project. And okay, will it click this year? You know, maybe it won't, but I'm going to do what Dan's done many a time and put my neck on the line and say that both of these teams will win races.
I have gone for a similar thing with Archie, but maybe I've been even braver. It just says Christian Rasmussen to win a race and outscore Alexander Rossi.
Wow, that mine doesn't feel bold anymore.
I don't. Again, I guess the same thing when I'm talking about who's going to be the biggest surprise of the year. I rewatched some of the Indy 500 and some of the So I have like good, really strong memories of some of that group running in practice, and I don't know why, but it was always Rasmussen that stuck out. I just think that combination of that aggressiveness and the raw speed that he has, combined with that extra year of understanding on his shoulders, because he was caught up in a few incidents. Road America comes to mind, and especially, and I feel like those kind of errors, I hope, are going to be ironed out this season, and I feel like he has the knowledge in the Ed Carpenter racing car, and I feel like he definitely has the speed. And I'm gonna say when Milwaukee was his best result of the year, I feel like it might be on an oval, but then I was thinking, which oval is it going to be? Because Joseph Newgarden rules Iowa, so that kind of puts the blanket over those two straight away, and I don't think he'll win the 500. So that kind of leaves Milwaukee, Gateway, and Nashville. One of those three, I think, will be won by Christian Rasmussen, because VK was also reasonably strong there last year as well. So Ed Carpenter Racing, I feel like, have the package for those three, not reasonably similar, but kind of short to mid oval type courses. It's not a bull ring like Iowa at 0.8 of a mile. And so, yeah, I decided that it's going to be Christian Rasmussen to win a race and, yes, outscore Alexander Rossi. That could really age like that Indy 500 milk in the sunshine, but we shall see.
I think last year I said Scott Dixon would retire, which didn't turn out true. My original one was that 10 drivers would win races, but then Archie said 11 people would win races in the race in this category, so then it didn't become bold, so I had to change it to Dixon retire. Anyway, neither of them became right. So, you ready? You ready? Scott McLaughlin will sweep the ovals in 2025.
Big.
Yep. The McLaughlin hype train is really showing this episode. I couldn't think of anything, and I was like, this one I have not convinced myself on yet. This one will take some time to brew. Maybe after he wins the Indianapolis 500, I'll be a bit more confident. This one still needs some. We need to let it cook this one a little bit more, but I think he's better than Newgarden Iowa last year, and he's got Gateway knuckled down. He probably should have won Gateway last year. Milwaukee's got knuckled down. Nashville, he was pretty good at. Who say no? I'm going for it. I'm going for it. Sending it.
Has it ever been done? Has it ever been done in a season with, say, 5 or more oval races?
No, Newgarden was very close. Was it 23? Yeah. And that was why my original prediction was going to be Newgarden win all of them outside the 500s. That actually, I think McLaughlin's arguably just as strong an oval driver on current form. So let's go for McLaughlin and really stick it out there with my prediction. And as James said, one less over race, and he won the one at Milwaukee last year. So I'm going for it. I'm going for it. This will be fun. I am, as I said earlier, I'm not a McLaughlin fan, but I'm really got a lot of confidence in it. So anyway.
What you're saying is in the span of 16 months, Scott McLaughlin's going to go from I can't call myself an IndyCar driver until I've won an oval to doing something that hasn't been done for many years.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Bold. I like it.
The next round is one we do quite often. So the brief that I gave everyone was name all the drivers you think will win a race in 2025. You get 1 point for every answer you get correct, but you are deducted 1 point for every driver you select who does not win a race. So you can't select everybody in the hope you'll get maximum points, because there is a penalty for not getting it right. So what we'll do is we'll go one each, name a driver, and everyone will say if they've also named that driver, for example. So starting off would be quite slow, obviously, but we might get more interesting towards the end. So, I mean, this probably worked out. I think Scott McLaughlin will win a race this year.
I agree.
I have no issues with that at all.
Right, somebody else take up the next one.
Joseph Newgarden will win a race.
Absolutely. definitely.
Yeah,
Not an oval race.
50.
Not an oval race. We'll win a race though.
Yeah, in agreement about Newgarden. I'll go with my Indy 500 champ, Scott Dixon, to win a race.
Yep, Scott Dixon will win
Absolutely
a
same
race.
ballpark. If you were listening to the Tom Gamer episode a couple of weeks ago, he predicted Dixon not to win a race. So we are more confident than the Sky Sports IndyCar commentator Tom Gamer, which is interesting. I'm going to go Colton Herta.
I've also gone for Herta.
I have Herta on my list as well.
Excellent. So 4 from 4 so far.
We've not said Alex Palou yet, have we?
No, we have not said Alex Palou. I do think he'll win a race though. Don't worry.
Yes.
No worries there.
Of course.
Yeah. Palou is my champ and also on my list. Go for Pato Award. I feel like we haven't barely mentioned him in this episode so far, but I think he'll win a race this season.
So do I.
Yep, I also agree. This
So
is where it might get more.
Six or
bit
six.
more
This
difficult now.
this is where it gets difficult. So I've only got 8 this year. I don't know how many you.
I've got 10.
You got 10.
I've
You
got
always
9.
go. Oh,
Well,
you always
yeah,
go
but
way
I-
over the top.
I had to go high because of my bold prediction. Every prediction affects something
Fine.
further down the road.
Yeah, fine, right. I told you my confidence in Carl Kirkwood, so I said he'll win a race this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think he will as well.
I haven't got Carl Kirkwood on my list, and I feel like that could be a mistake, but then I didn't want to chuck every single name that I felt could win a race, and so I feel like Carl Kirkwood won't win a race this year.
My next one I'll throw out there is willpower.
Nope, I'm on the Tom Gamewell train. I don't think he's going to win one.
Wow.
I think last year obviously got back to victory lane 3 times, but I feel his wins weren't lucky. That's really unfair. His wins certainly weren't lucky, but I just feel like people like Newgarden will take the step up. I feel McLaren will take the step up, and I feel the competition will be a bit hotter. I think Andretti will take a bit of a step up. So I just don't think the space of power, because there's just, I'm not saying Power's a bad driver. I think he'll get multiple podiums. I just think there's so many people that are just so good that you've got to cut some out.
Yeah, I feel like this is the like not the riskiest one, but I feel like one that could easily come back to bite, because willpower, you can never really write him off, but I have just written him off and said that he won't win a race.
Well, 23, we had O'Ward not winning a race, we had Herta not winning a race, and we had Power not winning a race. So it's not impossible.
A big name will probably not win a race. It is right.
Who's
Go on,
next? James.
So we're now in rogue picks. But I mean, I talked about how in our best face in new plate, Christian Lundgaard, and I said I think he'd get back to victory lane, so I've got him on my list.
Yep, I absolutely agreed with you earlier. I think this is my boldest one. I think Lundgaard will probably claim one of the street courses somewhere. So this is my most risky one, but I've gone for Christian Lundgaard, and that's actually, I know it's back to me, but that's my 8. So I mean, Archie, you ever said Lundgaard yet? You said no already, but
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Power over Lundgaard.
Power over Lundgaard. Fine.
So they're my 8 like most feasible ones.
Yes,
do you
I'm
want me
done
to
now.
reveal? Do you want me to reveal my Ed Carpenter Racing and AJ Foyt Racing victors?
Go on.
So we'll go for Foyt first, and yeah, aligning with my prediction earlier for the best transfer driver, I'm saying this is the year that Dave Malukas wins a race, and I'll say it's Gateway because I feel like it's been coming, and if it's not Gateway, it'll be Milwaukee. And I'm also saying Alexander Rossi will win a race. I've got no idea where. Oval, road course, street course, I actually don't know, but I've gone for the opposite to Ed Carpenter Racing driver to the one that you have picked, James.
Yeah, so I picked the Christian Rasmussen as my boldest pick, and then I guess from the big 4, the ones we haven't mentioned yet are Siegel, Ericsson, and Kiffin Simpson, and 2 of those I don't think will win their first IndyCar races. I don't think Kiffin Simpson or Nolan Siegel will trouble the victory lane celebrations this season. However, I do think Marcus Ericsson will get back to victory lane and take his 5th IndyCar win in 2025. I guess that's like my. Well, Christian Rasmussen is obviously my boldest, but of the big 4 and the ones that are slightly out there, I think Marcus Ericsson may be being underrated by some coming into the season. He did also finish last in testing, though, so maybe not. We may just be carrying on that 2024 form, but I do think he'll get back to victory lane this season.
So we've all gone for McLaughlin, Newgarden, O'Ward, Herta, Palou, and Dixon. Myself and Archie have gone for Kirkwood. Myself and James have gone for Christian Lundgaard. Archie's gone for Will Power by himself, and Alexander Rossi by himself, and David Malukas by himself, and James has gone for Rasmussen and Ericsson by himself. So how many drivers do you have covered there? We must have, what, 12, 13 drivers covered there, which is...
Just shows how competitive it is, right?
Half the field we think will win a race between us. So that's what we're intending. This is one of my favourite rounds of every year, so and we'll see how that comes back to us. I went slightly conservative this year in comparison to previous years, so I'm looking forward. Right. We've got a new round for this year. So this is slightly more on the serious side, but it's just 10 very quick fire yes or no questions on engaging topics that will come up in discussion a lot across the course of the season. So we've got 10 yes or no questions on various different topics. The first one we had was AJ Foyt Racing win a race this year. Obviously, that was part of the last question. So I've replaced that with, will Alex Palou win his first over race in 2025? I mean, you know my answer, so I'll let you two take it away.
I think he will, yes.
Okay, fine.
I said I don't think so. He may win at Indianapolis. I feel like that's his best chance, but I don't think he'll win on a short oval, despite the fact he did finish second in Iowa. I just feel like he will miss out this season unless it's at the Indy 500.
Fine. So
I just feel like it's about time. I've got nothing else reason-wise apart from it. Just feel like it's coming. Well, a bit like it was with Herta last year.
It's too competitive. I feel it's too competitive for me to give it to him yet. And the other reason I've said McLaughlin will Super Bowl the ovals, which is a bit of a problem for me predicting that, but that's fine. Right, we'll go on to, will Colton Herta still be on the grid in 2026?
No.
I don't think so. I was thinking he might be hungry and ever to succeed in IndyCar, but when you look at the bigger picture, I don't think he will be.
Fine, so we're all thinking he's off to Cadillac. So, will Carl Larson complete 1,100 miles of racing on May 25th?
Yes. Well, I mean, we're basically predicting the weather here.
No, he could get lapped. He could crash. You don't know.
That's a good point, actually. I didn't consider that, but he's too good to crash.
Right. He crashes a lot in NASCAR, though, so maybe that's...
Yeah, but then there were was it everyone bar 4 people had an incident at Daytona 500? I saw you imagine if 31 of the 35 people that entered the month of May had an incident in the month of May. That would be crazy.
This isn't a NASCAR podcast, but Larson does have his accidents from time to time. Anyway, I've also said yes, he will complete the 1,100 miles.
I think so too, and because we haven't had before this we hadn't had a rain affected 500. I think since Franchitti in 2007 won after 160 laps, and then they called it. We haven't had weather affecting it really. So yeah, I think it'd be tough for lightning to strike twice.
I think Larson, we haven't really spoken about Larson much. Obviously, we had last year, but this year on the podcast, we haven't really spoken about him too much, I don't think. Obviously, we will do more towards the month of May, but I think he'll have another good month. I think he'll definitely be Fast 6 again, and I think we will be talking about him as a potential winner as opposed, oh my goodness, Carl Larson's done the Indy 500. I think now that sort of fantasy is over. It's going to be more, okay, Carl Larson is here, and I think he'll be competing for Indianapolis 500 victory. So I'm not going to say he's obviously going to win, but I think Larson will be top 5 and maybe even a front row qualifying. Anyway, that's a different story for 3 months' time. Will Prema get a podium in their maiden season?
No, I don't think so.
No, I think they'll struggle, especially without Michael Cannon and him being there for a solid 6.5 days. I think no, they won't.
Cool. 3 out of 3 for that one. I wasn't sure for this one, but I think, I mean, it's such a competitive series. It's so hard. You look at someone like Kunkos, how long it's taken them. I know Prema are a bit more of an established organisation, but it's not an easy time to come in. You know, they've got to catch up on the hybrid and that sort of stuff. So, no for me. This one, I mean, it's the most impossible one to guess. Will we see a collision between 2 teammates? All 3 teammates, if you want to, or 4 if it's the Indy 500?
Yes, I feel like Devlin DeFrancesco and Graham Rahal have crashed into each other more than once.
They have, yes. Texas, they always seem to crash, I feel.
Texas, I don't know whether they were both at Texas. I definitely remember one at Texas, and I seem to remember another one on an oval as well. I think it might also have been Texas.
Yeah, in 2022 and 2023, they both crashed in Texas. I've gone yes, and funny enough, I think RLL could be in for a long season. Underneath that, just as a general note, yes, I was thinking Graham Rahal and Devlin DeFrancesco as well.
Do we remember? I think it was Mid-Ohio 20 2022, where I think every Andretti combination collided with each other it's every lap. Or look, these two have done Rossi and Grosjean. It was Rossi and Herta next lap, and then Grosjean, Di Francesco a lap after. That was a funny race. Anyway, I've said yes.
That was surreal.
That was surreal. That would be a great prediction for this year. Will the same team collide 6 times in the same race? I've gone for yes again. I don't know who, though. You two sort of put me on the spot because you do know. So I'm going to say there's going to be fireworks and the AJ Foyt Racing pair are going to collide.
They were the others that I actually thought about as well.
Both are very unforgiving, on the edge. I think that'd be fun. If not, I'll probably say the Hunkos is quite randomly. But anyway, let's go for some fireworks. That's AJ Foyt Racing. Next one. Will there be an international race announced before the end of 2025?
Yes, I think it will finally come. I feel like Mexico, there are enough kind of mumblings that there's enough progress being made there. So I think by the even if it's post-season, I think it will be announced, yes.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Archie. I feel like this time, I mean, there's been kind of racer articles going back to 2017 saying that Mexico is inbound next year. We've just got to sort a couple of things out, and in the end, we come to big 2025 still with nothing. I think yes, the timing is almost too right to not do it, and yeah, I think it's going to happen.
There's too much pressure on, I think, the series for them to not have this in place for 26.
Yeah, I will spoke about it very heavily. He seemed, from what he was saying, seemed like it's happening. So I've said yes, we will see an international race. We've gone a bit boring. We've gone 5 unanimous ones in a row, so we need to change this up a little bit. Let's see if this does it. This is a tongue twister. Will Power still be at Penske for 2026?
No.
Okay. Interesting.
I think Malukas will have a good enough season, and Power will have not a bad season, but a season that doesn't make Penske think we've really got to keep this guy. Especially if Malukas performs, I think he'll be under pressure.
Yeah, no, I said yes. I think Will Power look pretty hungry for success, actually, and maybe for another Indy 500 win. I don't think he's got enough in him to string together a championship, but like a 47-year-old Helio Castro-Neves in 2021, I think there is still life in Will Power yet. And after 3 wins last year, and also, I guess, with everything that happened off track in the kind of the previous couple of seasons, he almost looks kind of a little bit reinvigorated. And so I think Will Power will still be here next season as well.
Yep.
James, I'm losing track of the amount of drivers you said might win the Indy 500.
But the thing is, I always get to it with about like could do. And like people who will be fighting for a win, people who will say, yeah, we should have finished in the top 10, and then people who won't win. I'm not going to say that Stingray Rob is launching some kind of far-fetched campaign to do it, but I think experience counts so hard at Indy that you can never almost like count out someone like a Will Power. And I know it's so difficult that there's only one winner every year, and then you have to kind of reset for the next 365 days. But I don't know. I feel like he's still hungry enough to do it that he will be here in 2026.
Yep, I said yes. We'll have a good start to the season. Bag a couple of podiums early on. I think Malukas may take a few races to get up to speed, by which point Penske will go, let's play it safe for another year. Let's come back to it next year in April or May like they always do, at which point Malukas will be flying at Foyt, and he will be very much there for 2027. Will Hunkos have both their cars in the leader circle? I haven't gone first. I'm actually going to say no, because I don't think they'll have either car in the leader circle this year.
No, I'm in agreement.
I think Connor Daly makes it, and I think Stingray Rob does not. I say Connor Daly makes it when we get to the championship standings bit. I don't want to spoil it, but makes it is generous. I think they'll have one of two, but I don't think they'll have 2 out of 2.
Fine. Will the championship be decided in Nashville? I've gone yes.
I've also gone yes.
Yeah, I think it's too competitive for it not to be. We've basically got 13 potential race winners between us, and with that, I feel like, it's too competitive.
Yes, I mean, mine doesn't really make sense because I have predicted McLaughlin to win about every race under the sun by this point, so I don't really know how anyone else is still in contention in McLaughlin by Nashville, but somebody might be. Somebody might be in the McLaughlin situation of last year where they're like 52 points behind, where they can still win the title if McLaughlin decides to not turn up.
Dan,
But you
just say no, because it's going to take McLaughlin to crash out of every other race.
No,
I think.
McLaughlin will be turning up because he's got to win Nashville. So, oh, go on. I'll say no. You've convinced me. I've got to do it for the podcast culture. We'll say no. If I'm right, I'm claiming it. If I'm wrong, I'm also claiming that I got it right because maybe changed my mind. I'm too convincing McLaughlin. Right. This original question was: will Rinus VK participate in a race in 2025? Well, much to Archie's delight, we full well know that will be happening.
What did everyone answer to that? By the way, did you have an answer to it?
Yes, my original answer was yes.
I said yes as well.
I thought he'd get a part-time 500 wide with somebody.
Oh, I thought I just assumed he'd get the coin seat.
Fine. So I've changed it slightly. Will Linus Lundqvist participate in a race in 2025?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
We had 43 drivers last year. And so, yeah, he'll basically be every Honda team's first reserve, right? And I don't. There's not been a season that I can remember where they haven't needed a reserve in some way, shape, or form. And so, yes, I think so.
I think he'll do the Indy 500 with Ganassi.
Ooh, that was my next question. Do you think he'll get a 500 ride? So I don't think he will.
I'm predicting he'll do the 500 with Ganassi. If this whole Bourdais, Tom Brady thing doesn't come off, I think he'll do the Indy 500 with Ganassi because you've got to assume he's still got a contract with Ganassi.
Cool. So that was unanimous on that one as well. There's quite a few unanimous ones there, but that's fine. Anyway, round 4. Our favourite round of last year. Right, listeners, I know last year we didn't really do this round. Well, we did do this round, but we came to react to it and realised we actually couldn't work any of these out. So if you didn't know, these are the random questions. You'll see more in a minute. If you listen to the end of year special, you would have got the exclusive though, where Archie predicted every single thing about Stingray Rob exactly correct in this section. So we'll see if that happens again this year.
I'm trying to remember what it was. It was
his
like,
best
finished
finish.
21st in Iowa or something.
And-
I think
and
it was
his-
his best
and-
finish being 9th.
And his best finish in Iowa too, or something.
Yeah.
Or who will finish somewhere in Iowa. So we have 10 very important, just for fun questions, completely random, not much knowledge required, a lot of guesswork, a lot of fun. So we'll see how it is. So this year, me and Archie have gone through them and made sure we can track all of these. So we will actually have a reaction to them this year, because last year we were doing stuff like most overtakes and how many red flags will there be. Realised it was impossible to track. So this year we can track them all, thankfully. So this was my favourite one from last year. So I'll bring it back this year. Slightly different though, which is what will Kiffin Simpson's lap 3 speed at the Indianapolis 500 be? I'll start off 229.764.
What did you say? 229.
29.764.
I think I've gone way too high here, which I did last year with Hunter Ray as well. Although I think I did Hunter Ray about 2 miles per hour quicker. And ultimately, we don't actually know because of the hybrid weight.
That's it.
I'm going for 231.958 miles per hour.
Wow, quick.
For lap 3, it's quite quick, actually.
That was quicker than did last year, I think. Anyway.
Kiffin Simpson's lap 3 speed last year at the Indy 500, because I had a look, because I wanted to see whereabouts we're going to be, was 231.973. So
I've gone just below by 0.015.
So I predicted 231.974.
So I'm the only one who's actually accounted the fact that the car's way heavier this year. He had a superb draw last year. He was about 3rd or 4th. So that's also affected your numbers. So, I mean, Hunter Ray really screwed us over last year, didn't he? Because he got to the fast 12 and he was really slow in the fast 12 in comparison to his normal time. So that screwed it all over, because last year it was like 0.1 off of Hunter Ray before he came back to the fast 12. And then
I was about 3 miles per hour off, I think. I was about 3 miles per hour off.
Anyway, this is my favourite one. This makes qualifying really interesting. Hopefully he doesn't come back for bump day or fast 12. Otherwise this will become really complicated. But and we'll see how that pans out. Who will qualify 14th at Portland?
It's got to be Marcus Armstrong, right?
How dare you not predict Nolan Siegel? That's the obvious choice here.
I went for Alexander Rossi. Ed Carpenter Racing to be 14th at Portland, right?
And it'd be very Rossi as well. Just miss out on the fast 12.
Do we know who qualified 14th at Portland last year? Should we have a little look?
Let me guess. I'm gonna guess Felix Rosenqvist.
He was 20th. It was Scott McLaughlin.
Okay.
Yeah, had quite poor qualifying. Anyway, Nolan Siegel, definitely. He's finishing 14th there. Right. Even more unpredictable. Who will make the first pit stop at Detroit?
I think maybe this is going to be where Graham Rahal and Devlin DiFrancesco have their contact.
Oh,
DiFrancesco is going to get away with it, but Rahal's going to have a broken toe link.
Lap one.
Lap one. Yeah, Rahal's going to have a broken toe link.
Okay.
It's going to be a Detroit turn one kind of carnage bit, and it's going to be Daly with a shock decent qualifying that all goes up in smoke. That 11th place, just making the fast 12, evaporates as he goes into the pits for a new nose, which has been hanging off the car 10 seconds into Detroit.
That sounds like a daily thing. For sure. I've gone for Robert Schwartzman. His first experience in Detroit does not know what to expect for that first corner. You've got someone like. Let's go. Who's going to be the aggressor here? Let's go somebody like Christian Lundgaard after a terrible qualifying, makes an absolutely awful move, takes Schwartzman out. Oh, penalty for Lundgaard, but Schwartzman's front wing is completely dislodged, must come in. That's what's going to happen. I mean, disgusting behaviour from Lundgaard there. That was well out of order. He was never going to make the breaking point there. So Schwartzman unfortunately has to replace his front wing in that scenario. Right, this one I actually kind of regret because I think it's a lot easier than I thought it really should be. But where will Devlin DiFrancesco finish in the oval point standings? Now, I realised I was doing this today and I was like, hang on, RLL are terrible on ovals and DiFrancesco has not exactly got a very high pedigree. So it's where you put him in comparison to last place. I'm going to give him a bit of leeway. I put 25th and somebody's going to have a stinker and crash out on like all the ovals.
Yeah, I've also gone for 25th. I started off with 23rd and have kind of notched it down a bit. So yeah, I've gone for 25th.
I went 24th. We've been very brave with this. I was actually looking at it on Media Day. RLL did not speak about ovals at all, which was interesting. Kind of just hearing that it's like the elephant in the room for RLL, and there was no mention of it whatsoever. I feel like they could be in trouble. There was one mention from, I think, Devlin saying that they're going to be much improved, but they said that last year and then they were terrible. So.
Well, so I'm relying. So I don't really think anyone's going to be slower than him. So I reckon somebody like, let's say, Abel might have a few incidents, maybe no fault of his own, which would relegate him below that, which is my theory. Most finishes in 16th place. Last year, I believe it was a tie between Stingray Robb and Romain Grosjean for your benefits.
I've gone for Jacob Abel.
Oh, that's a bit brave. I respect that.
I went for Robert Schwartzman. I feel like in those kind of mad races where there are 10 DNFs, Kramer will still be last. So that makes 16th position looking very, very appealing.
We have completed the Rookie of the Year battle here because I've gone for Louis Foster. So we've gone for a rookie each to finish in 16th quite a lot. So that's a pretty nice nugget there. We'll move on to who will retire first at Gateway.
Sorry, James. Marcus Ericsson.
I went for Andretti teammate Carl Kirkwood. Sorry, Danny.
Well, sorry, Archie. I've gone for Rinus VK.
Oh, come on.
So there we are, all upsetting each other there. Marcus Armstrong's average finishing position across the year. We'll do it to the nearest whole number. We'll be the award at this point.
It is bound to be 13th. It's always 13th with him.
13th.
Yeah, he's constantly. I remember in his first season, he had I don't know whether did he finish 13th in the standings?
Was it F2?
And he was always 13th in F2. Yeah.
Last year was 14.7.
And he finished 14th in the standings. I've gone for 15.2, so rounded near his whole number is 15.
Yeah, I've gone 15 as well. So slight regression from Ganassi. This is one of my favourite ones, actually. Which driver will lead the fourth most laps in thermal? Or at thermal, I should say. There might not be a driver. There might not be four different drivers who lead a lap, which would add a massive caveat to this, which would make your prediction really good if anyone's that brave.
Scott Dixon.
I've got Kirkwood.
Nolan Siegel. He's going to be on that different strategy, and I feel like he's going to be there. It's Nolan Siegel with 2 laps led.
I was hoping someone would be smart and go, actually, you only have 3 lap leaders in thermal, and therefore be nobody. But no one's that brave. So pretty fun. And then the final, no, not the final one, the penultimate one. How many restarts will be waived across the course of the season? Now, I've got no idea what the waiving numbers are, so I just made it up, and I've said 6.
I've said 3.
I think I was thinking there wouldn't be any because of the new restart rules that they fired out about, was it 24 hours ago? But that's not going to happen because this is IndyCar. So I went for 4 in the end, and probably 2 of them will be at Detroit.
It feels like we get more than 3 in some races, to be honest. Like Gateway with Newgarden slowing down the pack. That's a different story that I won't really
Let's not get into that again, please.
Finally, we won't bother asking James this one. What's Christian Rasmussen's best finishing position, Archie?
5th.
5th. I've gone 7th. So a bit better.
And of course, he's winning. He's winning at, I can't remember where. I can't remember where I said. I don't want to kind of double cross myself, but he is winning a race.
Right, we'll end off with something I think. I'm really looking forward to this because
This is the bit I've been most looking forward to, I think.
Yeah, I've been really looking forward to this because I'm really interested to see what you two put. So, for those of you who don't know, we're going to be the brief I gave James and Archie is put your championship standings of all 27 full-time drivers from last in the standings to first. You get 5 points for getting your driver in the correct position, 3 points for being within 1, or 1 point for being within 3. Last year, I think this went comically wrong for myself and Archie. We were miles off from so many, especially for Rucci. And yeah, we were discussing this off camera. And I said, look, for example, I think Shank are going to have a really good season. I put them terribly low. And it's impossible to predict because there's way too many drivers. You're like, oh, they'll finish top 10. And you realise, oh, hang on, I've got 17 drivers to finish in the top 10 here. So how is this going to pan out? So there's some
genuinely, you look from like 14th to 22nd and you're like, yeah, they could finish anywhere there, really.
Yeah, there's some people I've gone, there's no way they're going to be that low. And I look above them, I'm like, what? They can't get any higher than any of these. So how are they going to fit in here somewhere? So... right, should we start off? Let's cut the chat and really get into it because I'm really looking forward to this. I've gone for Connor Daly, and that's only because I think he'll lose his ride. All the suggestions are that Polka Dot are withdrawing. He put an Instagram post out the other day, which said only looking forward to St. Pete and cherishing every moment in the car. I'm like, okay, why are you doing that? You've got a whole season ahead of you, so it looks like his funding's dried up. So I don't think he'll see out the season. I mean. First of all, I've got no idea who will replace him. I've gone on limb and say Jack Harvey right now. You heard it here first if someone was to replace him. But I think Daly will be 27th just because he won't finish the season.
Yeah, I also went for Connor Daly. I don't see a world in which he finishes the season given the news that's come out. He had quite an angry reply to someone in the Polka Dot community about the funding that appears to have been withdrawn for whatever reason. So, yeah, it's such a shame because I was really looking forward to seeing what he can do, but maybe it'll be I think it'll end up being a ride share. Again, I've got no idea with who.
You've got to name some drivers. Come on. This is predictions.
I guess Jack Harvey's the one, really. Does Linus Lundqvist get in there for a few races? Maybe. But you're limited to 3, aren't you? So.
See, I went off the assumption that the 78 was going to have some kind of stability throughout the year, but then the more I kind of look at like the cryptic funds, the thing I said about that 78 finishing the leaders circle is actually probably going to be a lie realistically. So unfortunately I went for the 77 of Stingray Rob to bring up the rear. I just feel like Robert Hunkos it's a pay driver situation and it's not been pretty for a great deal of time either at AJ Foyt Racing or with Dale Coyne with Brickware Racing. So yeah, I've got Stingray Rob in that wooden spoon spot.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better for me because I put Rob at 26. So I've got the 2 Hunkos drivers, the full-time Hunkos drivers, at least for now, in 26th and 27th. Rob didn't make the progress that I thought he should have done. Hunkos is almost certainly a step backwards, unfortunately. So 26th for me.
I went for Di Francesco. I just think 3rd year for Rob. I mean, he's not had any kind of stability, has he? And that's probably not going to help him. He's been with Hunkos in the past. I just think Di Francesco, having had a year out, I mean, he really struggled with Andretti, and RLL is obviously a step down for Andretti. So I'm giving Rob the benefit of the doubt, saying he will beat Di Francesco.
I've got Devlin Di Francesco in the 26th spot as well. Just to kind of echo what you said, Archie, I feel like he could have a really tough time on those short ovals. It may make for some difficult viewing. He may do well at the Indy road course. That was seemingly the sweet spot and also RLL sweet spot. But realistically, I think it could be difficult.
Yep, that leads me on nicely because I've got him in 25th, so just one above the pair of you. I mean, look, I won't repeat what you said, but taking a year out, it's got to learn the hybrid. Look, he didn't set any world of light at Andretti apart from the one lap on the Indy road course in 2023. Apart from that individual lap, he did about nothing for 2 years, and yeah,
Still finished off the lead lap.
Still finished off a lead lap, which pretty much summed up his IndyCar career to that date. So yeah, 25th, you know. RLL's package is not there, and Di Francesco is certainly not going to be the one leading that forward, so I put him 25th.
Stingray Rob was 25th for me.
Cool.
I went for the last of the Rookie of the Year battle in Jacob Abel in 25th, just because I feel like the 51 is a really difficult seat. It's almost like, it's not like a poison chalice, but it's been probably one of the least competitive seats there has been in IndyCar over definitely the last 2 or 3 seasons, and it's almost like a baptism of fire being chucked in there for the your first like IndyCar season. And I feel like there may be some decent performances, but that inexperience and maybe some bad luck as well. And I feel like it'll be a tough season for Jacob Abel, but definitely a learning season because I think there's a driver in there.
Yep, that leads me nicely. Again, I've got Abel on 24th as well. So obviously a learning year. I think for Coyne, the most important thing is just have that stability for the year. Have somebody in that seat full time who can learn, who can develop, and can learn a free in his VK. Look, we really like Jacob, and he had a good year in Indy next last year, and obviously really built up his own family team. But yeah, 24th for him. It's going to be a learning year. I think he'll get a further opportunity though. So put him in 24th.
Yeah, I agree with all points made there. Yeah, learning year. I don't think it's going to be a bad year. I think he'll have a few decent weekends, but I think that just the team more than anything have got a lot to find.
And my 24, actually, I've just got the rookies kind of in a row. I've got Robert Schwartzman. Prama's such an unknown, but with Callum Ilott being having that at least 2 years or 2 and a bit years of IndyCar under his belt, consistently, I feel like it'll be higher. But I just find it's going to be difficult for them. Like, it took Junkos quite a while really to kind of hit the ground running, and I mean, Prema is obviously it's a slick operation. I mean, even just from that car launch, it was pretty slick. But I just do feel like it might just take Robert Schwartzman a little while to get going.
23rd, I've gone for Kiffin Simpson.
Yeah, I think he'll have a better year. I've also gone for Simpson. I think he'll have a better year.
My 23rd in a row, I've gone for Louis Foster. He's a much better driver than Di Francesco. I think he's a strong driver, but I've actually really got RLL to struggle consistently across the board this year. You'll see further up, Graham Rahal is particularly low as well.
22nd, gone for Robert Schwartzman. Look, we don't know too much about Prema, so 22nd for me.
Are we just going to have the exact same thing? Yeah, I've also gone for Robert Schwartzman.
How many in a row? 3 in a row? 4?
Yeah, I think the only different one so far is the Robin Di Francesco the other way around.
Yeah.
But yeah, Prema, a complete unknown. I think it's just the oval factor is the thing that I keep circling back to.
And yeah, in my 22, I had, with regret now, Connor Daly. That 78 car. I just felt like Junkos, at the start of kind of 2023, it was Townsend Bell that was talking about how they were like they had become such a serious operation, and maybe they've regressed a little bit, but I still feel like there's a team in there, and they have kind of the ability to kind of drag good results seemingly from almost from nowhere. But at the same time, yeah, maybe putting Connor Daly there was slightly optimistic because kind of looking at it now, that the money could quite easily dry up, and he won't be making it even to the Indy 500 and beyond. So yeah, it's probably the greatest unknown, I think, around this bottom half of the field so far.
21st, I've gone for Rinus VK. He'll lead Coyne forward, not hugely. He'll do a decent job. He won't finish between 13th and 15th or whatever, 12th and 14th or whatever it is this year. But it'll just bring a bit of stability. And again, I feel like it's a bit harsh, but I look at the people above him and I can't really justify myself putting them above any of them. So 21st for me.
I have gone for Louis Foster in 21st. I think he will make the leaders circle. As we've already discussed, he will be the top rookie, but I agree with James that RLL may have a slightly challenging year still.
Yeah, in my 21 spot, I've gone for Callum Ilott. Again, it's that unknown of Prema. Maybe I'm underrating them a little bit, but for I'd rather be safe in kind of underrating them and be like, oh, surprisingly pleased, and overrate, I guess, the outfit significantly when, you know, they may be bringing up the back of the field. So 21, I've got Callum Ilott. I hope they do better than that. And I feel like the team will progress, but I just do feel like those first few races could be rocky.
You two have gone for Louis Foster. It's my time to go for Louis Foster. I've got him in 20th. So it's a top rookie there.
Yeah, I've gone for Foster's teammate Graham Rahal in 20th, which might be his worst ever finish if that happens. But it's been trending downwards. And again, will they stop the rot? Maybe they will, but just following the trends, really.
Archie, me and you are matching. I've got Graham Rahal the 20th spot as well. 18th last year, and it doesn't look promising. So, yeah, that's what I've gone for.
Yep, just above. I've got him in 19th.
And in 19th, I've got Callum Ilott. I think he will have a few good results. Like, I can see him breaking into the top 10, like, on occasion, as in maybe 2 or 3 times. But they're just such an unknown Prema. So I don't feel like I can really put them that high.
And I've got Rinus VK, Dan, as you said, leading that 18 and Dale Coyne car forward, but it won't be a revolutionary season for them. I think it'll be good for them, but I don't think it'll be revolutionary.
Yep, I have got Callum Ilott slightly ahead of you two. I've got him in 18th. I swapped him with the person above him multiple times. So I now started him in 18th. Will be an okay year, but I mean, the Prem will be quite hidden amongst the pack, I think.
I probably can't go any further with Rinus VK now, so he will be 18th in the number 18, which I still think, given where Coyne have been, or at least were last year with all the instability, would be an exceptional year, really.
And in my 18th spot, you guys put him much lower, but I feel like with the downsizing of Chip Ganassi Racing, it could be really beneficial for Kiffin Simpson. So I've put him in 18th. I feel like there may be a couple of good results. There is a driver somewhere in there, but he's incredibly accident prone. So we shall see. But I feel like it'll be 18th for Simpson.
Still very young as well. You mustn't forget.
So I believe our bottom 10 drivers we've all chosen the same pool. So from here on in, it was still anyone's game. So this one is the epitome of, I think they could do better, but I look at everybody above them. I'm like, how would they do better? This is that stage for me. And I started off with Christian Rasmussen at 17th. He deserves better, but I can't justify bringing him ahead of anyone else in my list.
Ditto. Christian Rasmussen 17th for me, but I still think he'll have some pretty strong top 10 results. It's just there's 17, 18, 19, 20 drivers that could also have a lot of top 10 results.
Maybe I'm underrating him here, but I've got Nolan Siegel in 17th. I felt like it was just missing something. It was steady last year, and that was a nice way that you described it. It didn't really set the world on fire for me, and so I hope it does better than 17th, but I feel like I couldn't justify on what I'd seen so far it going any higher.
Again, another one I can't justify going higher despite the test, but I just look at everyone else above them like I can't put them above these people. I've gone for Marcus Armstrong in 16th.
I've put Nolan Siegel in 16th, which, I mean, you've got him higher than me, evidently, Dan, which doesn't align with me saying it's going to be my surprise of the year. But I think the surprise element, I think he will have numerous top 10 results. I think he'll get on the podium, but I also think he'll still have those kind of troughs that will be inevitable. I mean, he's 20 years old. He's a young driver. He's very inexperienced. This is his first full season.
Dan, I'm joining you with Marcus Armstrong in 16th. It's just going to be like that. It's going to be nice and consistent, but there are better drivers in the field.
My Shack was the epitome of I thought they do so well with the Ganassi Alliance, and I just can't put them anywhere else. So Felix Rosenqvist is 15th as well. I mean, I think that I would be surprised if they actually did do that poorly. I think they will do better. Rosenqvist got paid a lot for mechanical issues and a lot of bad luck, and I just got a feeling the same will happen because that's been Rosenqvist's entire career, really. Just bad luck and misfortune and things not going his way. But I put him 15th on this occasion.
I've gone for Marcus Armstrong 15th, which I'm not sure is physically possible if he has an average finish of 13th, but I'm going to stick with that anyway. So yeah, Armstrong 15th.
My 15th is Alexander Rossi. I feel like Ed Carpenter Racing will make steps forward from what they had last year. 13th for Rinus VK, it was 22nd for Rasmussen, but we missed a couple of races. But yeah, I feel like Rossi will be consistently good, but maybe not set the world on fire in season 1 at Ed Carpenter Racing.
14th is my space for Nolan Siegel. I think that's about right. I think he probably should be better than the Shanks, really, but he won't set the world alight. Wonder if, I mean, it could be a bit of a pressure year for Nolan Siegel, in truth, if he doesn't perform, but I've got him 14th.
Yeah, you see, now this is into the real spot where 10th to 14th could genuinely be anyone in any order. I've gone Felix Rosenqvist 14th. He could also be 11th to 10th, but
yeah,
he's going to be 14th because that's what I think he'll finish. I have no elaborate justification because it will probably be a couple of points here and there.
My 14th is Christian Rasmussen. One significantly high peak and a few troughs means that he will outscore Rossi, but whether he actually outperforms him, maybe not. It probably could be a case of that. I feel like there'll be a high peak and some inevitable accidents and a 14th place finish.
So in my first draft, I had Alexander Rossi about 17th. And then I was like, well, hang on. VK in a terrible carpenter team was between 12th and 14th every year. So how would Rossi finish 17th when we all believe the team will get significantly better this year? So that made no sense to me. So I do a lot of redrafting. So now Rossi ends up at 13th in prime VK carpenter territories. The team haven't really improved despite you two saying they're going to win races and me thinking Rossi and Rasmussen will lead the team forward. They actually stay exactly where they are in the standings pretty much, but Rossi's 13th.
Took the words out of my mouth. He's in the VK sweet spot in 13th. Maybe the improvements, I don't think they'll be drastic this year. I think maybe it will be a longer term thing. A lot of them have spoken about this being a project. So yeah, Rossi will be 13th. I still think they will make a step forward. I think kind of competing on with both cars is probably evidence of that improvement. Rossi 13th.
My 13th, maybe underrating them a bit, but I've gone for the AJ40 Santino Ferrucci in my 13th spot. I feel like more cars will be more competitive in the AJ40. I feel like some of the Andretti's will be slightly better. I feel like maybe both 2 Arrow McLarens will finish above. Maybe his teammate David Malukas as well. So yeah, 13th place was as high as I could put Ferrucci, but he could easily prove me wrong, as he did last year. So.
Yep. I mean, I think Foyt will do well, but you look at it and you feel like they have to regress. I've got David Malukas in 12th for mine.
I've got Santino Ferrucci in 12th. I said this earlier. I think David Malukas will give him room for his money and ultimately beat him. I think Ferrucci had barely any misfortune last year. I think that really helped him, and obviously had 11 top 10 results. I'm not sure that same consistency is going to be possible. Again, just it's so competitive. There's so many options up there, and yeah, it's hard to say.
And David Malukas in my 12. I think it'll be close between those two polarizing characters, I guess. And they're kind of very, very different in their driving styles and in just the way they conduct themselves, I guess, off track. But I think they're very closely matched on track. And I think David Malukas would just pick teammate Ferrucci into 12th.
Yep, I stay in the Foyt camp. I've got Ferrucci 11th. So we're going for a little Foyt hotspot here. I think they will be very, very, very close. They'll be separated by less than 10 points.
Yeah, I agree. Except Marcus Ericsson's next for me, because it's just been so long since Andretti have had every car on the team performing at a high level. And I just think Ericsson will be the one that lags slightly behind again. He'll have a better season, but he still won't quite be there. So Ericsson in 11th for me.
My 11th spot is Felix Rosenqvist, I guess. You've talked about the Shank cars and that alliance with Ganassi. I just feel like he performs at a higher level than Armstrong, and the bad luck again, it can't surely go on for as long as it did. I mean, he was outside the top 10 for 6 consecutive races between Road America and I think Toronto. So yeah, I'm hoping for better Felix Rosenqvist, and I think he'll just finish outside the top 10 in 11th, one position up from last year.
I've got Marcus Ericsson to round out my top 10. Will be improved, but again, can't see him above any of the other guys, so he's in 10th for me.
And David Malukas is 10th for me. I think he will have a very strong year, back-to-back years with an AJ Foyt racing car in the top 10.
And Kyle Kirkwood rounds out my top 10. As you called him like an A-tier driver, and that's kind of, I'd say, about right. There'll be some flashes of goodness, plenty of consistency, but maybe just missing that extra zip that the guys ahead of him have.
Ninth place, got Christian Lundgaard. I feel this might be a fairly common one around here. We'll have a good first year for McLaren, not an outstanding year, so ninth place is fair.
Yep, he's ninth for me as well.
Also ninth for me.
There we are. I said this would be the case. That's fairly unanimous. So Will Power rounds out my 8, which I feel is a bit low, but considering I said he wouldn't win a race, I feel that has to be right.
I've gone for, again, it's hard to split between my next two. I've actually gone for Scott Dixon. It's very low, but I'm kind of siding with Tom Gaymore's rationale. I think there are other drivers that have higher peaks than Dixon does. And last year, he just seemed to fade away a little bit. I don't think he's going to have a bad year. This is the thing. I think the top 8 in the championship will all have a pretty good year. I don't think there's going to be one like you look at Newgarden last year finishing 8th and you think, oh, he's had a horrible year. I don't think Dixon's going to have a bad year. I think he's just going to end up 8th because I look at the guys I think will finish ahead, and yeah, that's it.
My 8th spot, I've got Marcus Ericsson. As much as I want to push him high up as possible, I can't justify going any higher than 8th. I think he will get back to victory lane this season, but Ericsson in my 8th spot. I feel like he will have a better run of luck and also drive significantly better in a second year at Andretti.
I made a huge reaction to Archie's Dixon in 8th. I'm not really much better because I put him in 7th. Again, I just think there's people better than him now. I think the Penske's and even Herter, well, obviously Pillow, but even Hirsch and Award will probably beat Dixon on a regular basis. Dixon takes on those miracle races, and now we don't really have these dual saving races anymore. Does that take away from Dixon's potential? We'll discuss that more next week, potentially. But I've got Dixon 7th.
I've gone for Will Power in 7th. I think it's impossible to split between those two, really. I think they'll probably both be that kind of mid-lower end of the top 10.
I have gone for Will Power also in 7th. I kind of agree with what you guys say, and I think he'll be consistent on the podium, but I don't think he'll win a race, and I can't really put him any higher than 7th.
6th place, I've gone a bit confident for Carl Kirkwood, because I said it'd be a surprise package, and he can't finish the same place he did last year, so I've gone for 6th for Carl Kirkwood.
Yeah, I also went for Carl Kirkwood. I think he's going to just continue making these kind of incremental steps up in the standings.
My 6th, it could raise a couple of eyebrows, but it is Pat Award. And I don't know why, but I just feel like Arrow McLaren again will just miss that little bit of extra kind of zip that they kind of need. And there were also a couple of mistakes still littered in there as well. And as much as I'd love to see him really put in a championship charge like 2021, I just can't see it with the caliber of driver above. So 6th for Award and a difficult one.
This makes no sense to do with super licenses, but I don't care. This is my podcast. Colton Herter's in 5th.
I think he could still get a super license if he's 5th. It's not entirely clear. That might be where he needs to run some free practices.
Anyway, he's in 5th. There we are.
I've gone for O'Ward in 5th. It's similar reasons to you, James. I just think there's other teams that are more buttoned up with than Arrow McLaren are, including Andretti.
Scott Dixon is in my 5th spot. I totally agree with what you guys say about putting him slightly lower down in the top 10, but I just feel like Scott Dixon is, an inevitable force in IndyCar, and I can't not have him outside my top 5 in the championship. I know he finished 6th last year by 4 points, but there was some kind of horrific luck in there as well. The Mid-Ohio one especially springs to mind. That first race with the hybrid and being like the only car to just basically not work at all. I feel like Dixon in my 5th spot, he doesn't show any signs of slowing down really in terms of raw pace. And he's my Indy 500 champ as well.
Tough pick here. I've gone for Joseph Newgarden as my 4th place slot. It'll be better. I don't think it'll be quite as championship contending as the others, so I've gone for him 4th.
I've gone for Colton Herter securing his super license in 4th.
And Joseph Newgarden, Danny, also make that my 4th spot as well, so match in there.
Can't push him up any higher. Pato Award in my 3rd slot. It just feels right to me. McLaren will be better in comparison to what they were last year. They won't have as many off weekends, but they still just won't have the peaks of the Ganassis and the Penske's.
I've gone for Joseph Newgarden 3rd. I think this is where it gets back to a point I raised earlier that we decided would spoil this. I think there will be 3 drivers in contention come Nashville. And I think Newgarden will be the first of those, but he will finish 3rd in the standings.
I've got Colton Herter in my 3rd spot. I feel like last season was definitely so strong. It was almost like a Colton Herter reborn. There were only 4 finishes outside the top 10. And I guess the 2 that were really kind of standouts was the crash at the Indy 500 that maybe cost him a run at the win. And then the complete head loss in Detroit. So hopefully he's moved past all of that, and then that 19th place finish could easily have been sort of 7th or 8th, and maybe got him even closer to that title. I think he just misses out for me. I think there'll be 4 drivers in contention come Nashville: Palou, McLaughlin, Herter, and Newgarden in some kind of facets. But I think he'll finish 3rd, and that may be the end of his IndyCar career. If what we're saying about the move that we all agreed on happens, I think he'll round it out with the 3rd place in the championship.
Also, obviously, for myself and Archie, Alex Palou finishes 2nd because, of course, without any doubt, beyond any reasoning, Scott McLaughlin will be the champion. There is undeniable evidence he will be the champion, 110%. Undoubtedly, he will be the champion. So Palou will therefore finish 2nd, obviously. The opposite is the case for James, and McLaughlin in 2nd and Palou in 1st. But yeah, not bad. Nothing too hideous this year, I don't think. I think we were all pretty well behaved for that segment. We'll see how that collectively comes back to bite us then.
I'm most scared, I must say, about Dixon down in 8th. I feel like writing Scott Dixon, not necessarily writing him off. I'm still saying he's going to win a race, but feels like a big gamble.
Big ask. But I believe, unless anyone's got any last outrageous predictions or want to say they're so confident on their predictions that they're putting their neck really on the line, I don't think it's as bold as me this year.
I'm trying to think of a Rinus VK related prediction to make. He only finishes outside the... No, he can't only finish.
That's a nice one. Let's make one about our driver. So you got Rinus VK, Archie. James Ericsson, I'll take Ward.
I was going to say he only finishes outside the top 15 like 3 times, but then he wouldn't finish 18th in the standings. Rinus VK, he doesn't have a DNF and he finishes inside the top 20 in every race. I think that's a reasonable prediction.
I think Marcus Ericsson will be the highest mover of the Indy 500. So wherever he qualifies, I think he races well there, and I think he'll be the highest mover in whatever facet that is.
Cool. And I say for Pato O'Ward that he will finish top 10 in every race apart from 1. Will be my guess, which will be quite brave for McLaren, but we'll see how that pans out. Yeah, consistent. He won't win many. He will only win 1, but he'll finish top 10 in loads. And it's going to be a competition there. That's out there. That's a lot of faith in McLaren, which I don't really have. But for this week, that is it. I've really enjoyed that. With the 2 of you, some great predictions there. I mean, some not so great predictions. We'll see. We'll look
right now. It's 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, we'll say, well, that's an absolutely awful prediction. So we'll come back in 6 months' time to see how bad these predictions are. But I really enjoyed that. Thought it was really good. And as we said, we'll react in 6 months' time. Next week will be the preview, as me and Archie love very much. It will be the big season preview. Looking forward to cars hitting track for 2025 before we head into St. Petersburg. We've got some rule changes to recap. We've got a Sebring test to recap and a couple other bits and bobs. So that will be happening next week. However, there's a little treat for listeners of the IndyCar podcast. There will be a bonus episode between now and the preview will be out probably next Tuesday, by the way, to make clear. So we will be on time next week, but hopefully there will be a bonus episode before then. We won't spoil it, but stay tuned because there will be hopefully a very special episode between now and then. But for this week, thanks very much for watching, thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.